Hello, it is I, Dharma, the dearest host for this Horns and Halos channel. And today, we are continuing with part 2 to Modir's Fate. Now, if you didn't know, Modir's Fate is a Roblox role-playing game of which you take place in a medieval Viking times, land of which is being corrupted by this black flower thingy. Now, if you want more details about all of this, then please do check out my other video on Modir's Fate. I believe it's called Modir's Fate, The Guard, and that's the first part to this. Please do go check that out if you want all of the context for this and such, otherwise you're gonna be a wee bit lost. So yeah, let's get into it. So about where we left off last time was my character Sunbeam. Now Sunbeam had just gotten out his swords in a swift flash of steel, facing the water, only to find that the sound was just coming from a sea person. He quickly put his swords away, saying sorry and apologizing for it, being a bit on edge since he was a castle guard. The sea person, being Marine, said that she was sorry because she should have known better than to creep up on, a random land dweller. Before asking him some questions, asking him why he's here by the sea, of which he responds, I come here to relax sometimes. She also asks him who he is, and he says that he is a guard for the castle of Carlia, and she introduces herself as well, saying that I am Marine, and I live here. I live in the sea, under the sea. But yeah, Sunbeam also proceeds to ask some questions since he has never seen a sea person before, and this was one of the and Marine had only recently met land dwellers, so she was curious as well. One of the questions that Sunbeam asked was if Marine could go up on land, to which Marine replies, I don't know, I'm not really sure, before going to try and test it out. However, Sunbeam is distracted from helping her out of the water to the sound of Sid, who is frantically looking around for Atlas. Sunbeam comes over to Sid, of which Sid replies, now where is that human? And to Sunbeam's shock, he asks, wait, what? That magic kid was a human? Because, like I had said in the last episode, humans in this world don't have magic, or at least aren't supposed to. So this is quite an anomaly. And so with this, Sunbeam takes out his swords once again as Marine makes her way over to him, while, still learning how to walk on legs and stuff, but it's fine. She's fine. So, yeah, Sunbeam's got his weapons out and asks, who are you? What are you doing? And what do you mean by human? Sid explains, somewhat that the human is missing and is possibly in danger, and that they really should go find him. But Sunbeam isn't really having it at this point until, from behind Sid, a giant beam of light comes up from the ground and goes deep into the sky from where a temple was deep in the forest. Sid turns around to see it and is like, he must be there, and runs off to go get Atlas. Sunbeam and Marine follow, Sunbeam staying behind with Marine in order to help her get along and, make sure she doesn't stumble or anything. Soon enough, they arrive at the Temple of the Elements, which is just what I'm going to call it because I don't know what else to call it. I forget the made-up word for it, so I'm just going to call it that. And they all arrive. And to all of their shock, Atlas is nowhere to be found, at least at first. Sunbeam walks up the stairs quickly to be faced with the giant statue of the Earth Goddess. Yet again, can't remember her name, so we'll just go with Earth Goddess. And puts his weapons away, since there doesn't appear to be any danger at the moment. Marine and Sid follow, keeping off to the other side as Sid looked around for his missing companion. Sunbeam would move over towards a column, checking around the statue to see if anything was going down, and he also didn't spot Atlas. Both Sid and Marine would stay on the other side of the temple, just kind of looking out and seeing what could have possibly created that beam of weird light. But before too long, the statue's head would suddenly turn and would blast the column next to them. They would roll out of the way, Marine hesitantly taking out her spear as Sid would run over to the other side, to the other corner of the temple. Sid, once over there, would spot an nearly unconscious Atlas and go over to him to start healing him, whereas Marine would just stand and hold her spear. Sunbeam, seeing the statue, would try to walk over towards Marine to help protect her, but the giant statue's head would turn again, blasting him with a beam of pure white light, knocking him out. As Sid attended to Atlas's wounds, Atlas would get up and, in a fury, summon great red fire around him and in his hands and start beating up the statue quite intensely. He would beat it up so bad that he would basically knock the entire thing out of the temple to the other side of the river in front of the temple, because yes, there's a river in front of the temple, and start beating it to a pulp. Every piece of it would be beaten down and turned into essentially dust. Meanwhile, Sunbeam is unconscious, and Sid ended up being badly hurt, I'm assuming by one of the stray rocks from the statue's detonation. Marine would take a second to collect herself after seeing what just went down, and ran over to Sunbeam, picking him up and moving him out of the temple so that he can, not be hurt by anything else. Marine would worriedly check him over and not really know what to do, since she doesn't have any healing magic. Only Sid and Atlas have healing magic. So, Marine didn't have anything to really do before. And so she went off to run after Sid. Once Sid was dragged over, or not necessarily dragged over, Sid was still walking at this point, just kind of messed up a little bit. Sid would walk over and heal up Sunbeam, assisting him before Sunbeam got up to go get Atlas. Sid would now sit down and then lay down, slowly dying from his injuries, as Marine kind of stood by, still kind of processing what's happening and also trying to tend to Sid's wounds. Sunbeam would run over to Atlas, hopping over the river, and going to stop him from causing any more destruction to possibly them. Sunbeam would say, "It's okay, the statue's very, very much dead now, you know, it's fine, but Sid's not alright. Sid's dying, I think." And Atlas will, like, poo, 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 whoosh, 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 you know, fighting sounds, before stopping to face Sunbeam, saying, "What do you mean Sid's dying? Sid's fine." Before looking over and seeing that Sid was in fact not fine, and would therefore run over to tend to his fallen friend / mentor. Sunbeam would come on over to witness what was happening. Atlas would heal Sid, and everybody would be nice and tip-top again. But this nice tranquility wouldn't last, as the sounds of guards shouting in the distance alerted the crew to the fact that, yeah, they weren't the only ones who knew that the temple had been pretty much destroyed, or at least the statue anyway. But there was still damage to the temple, so it's not okay. Nothing is okay. So Sid would let them all know that they could go crash at his place, the Snowy Kingdom, and so off they went to the Snowy Kingdom. Once there, Sid would start discussing plans with Atlas, but not before showing Sunbeam and Marine to their little cottages, for which they'll be staying in while Sid and Atlas figure things out. So with that, Sunbeam would talk with Marine for a minute, both of them sharing how they've apparently joined in a crazy adventure, before each of them would go into their separate little houses for a while. Atlas and Sid would discuss the prophecy and how they believed that Marine and Sunbeam were a part of it. Because, if y'all don't remember, in the prophecy, there would be a human with great magic, an elf with the strength of armies, what was it? I forget sometimes. There would be a sea person with basically with a passion of fire in their heart, and a dark elf with a connection to the light. And so they believe that Sunbeam was that dark elf with a connection to the light, and Marine was that water person with a passion of fire. Or, not of fire magic, but, their passion was like fire, if that makes sense. I know words, but, yeah, so they believed that now we were a part of this equation, too. But, good things don't always last. As Sid and Atlas depart ways after having this talk, Atlas going to the personal library to study more magic books and speak in random ancient languages that he apparently knows, Sid would go to sit upon his throne and put on his crown. Now, little did the rest of us know that this was actually a part of a curse. You see, only Atlas and Sid at this point know of the prophecy. Marine and Sunbeam don't. But what Atlas and Sid know is that with the great blessings that come with each of our great powers, there is also a curse that each of us have to endure. And Sid's curse is a bit strange, but it is one that I think is the most interesting I've seen so far. You see, Sid's curse is that he is able to spy on practically every single kingdom and basically see through the eyes of the royals. But how this turns it into a curse is that he begins to lose control of it and is stuck in this zombie-like mind-controlled state where nobody from outside of his view can contact or interact with him. And so because of this, there is, this is a problem, because Sid is, one of the really powerful ones. Not that we're all not powerful, but it's clear that Atlas and Sid are meant to be, like, the really powerful ones. So, yeah. But Marine and Sunbeam don't know this, so they go about their days. Marine starts cooking up a nice soup in her little cottage, getting some rest, and basically getting back in the swing of things, whereas Sunbeam has different plans. He starts trading with the local merchants around town and has replaced his guard helmet at this point with a cloak. Now that he was no longer a royal guard of Carlia, because they probably have found somebody else to replace him by now, and even if he did come back, he would probably be very, very fired. He decided to get himself a nice hood and scarf, and started getting supplies to pack. You see, Sunbeam wasn't too keen on staying here. Like I said before, neither Sunbeam nor Marine knew that they were part of a prophecy. But, unlike Marine, Sunbeam didn't plan on staying. Instead, Sunbeam sought to find answers to this himself. And, at some point in the night, he also discovered that he has, his shadow powers were turning into light, which of course freaks him out, and there's blinding light that comes from the castle and things like that, so that kind of thing, and so it kind of spooks him, but what wouldn't why wouldn't it spook him, Dark elves, they have a connection to shadow magic, not light magic. This is the exact opposite of what dark elves do. So, with this new revelation also in mind, he decides to head out on his own, packing up some bread, getting some oil for lanterns, and water, and all sorts of good stuff. He packs up and decides that he'd be better off trying to figure this out on his own, since at this point he's not really a fan of Atlas and his never-ending chaos. Marine is nice enough, and he considers them to be nice acquaintances, and Sid is just a mystery. So, not really considering any of these people to really be companions, he sets off on his own to figure this all out. And so, with that, he travels down the side of the mountain, to head towards the giant black corruption flower off in the distance, turning back to only look at the Snowy Kingdom once, as he solemnly said to himself he'd be more hassle than he's worth, before turning away and continuing down the path on his journey. The next day, Marine and Atlas would meet up and start talking about battle plans, whilst Sid sat in his throne all night. But, interestingly enough, the next morning, the throne was empty, except for one crown. Well, that's it for today, you all. If you like me and you want to support me in all of my future endeavors, then go ahead and check out the link in the description down below. There I have a link to my podcast, write what you want to read, draw what you want to see. And over there I do professional tips, tricks, and whatnot to-dos for novel writing and digital art. I also experimented a bunch of other things like business and all sorts of fun stuff. And I've recently finished the Pride Month Pride Month series, so please do go check it out, even if it's just for that reason. I'm sure you'll enjoy the content over there. So, yeah, please do subscribe, like, and hit the notification bell over here because I post at least once every weekend. And if you would like to get some nice merchandise, then go ahead and check out the Redbubble link in the description down below. It'll take you to my Rainbow-rific store where you can get Pride, I Am Valid and I Am Beautiful Pride pins. I've got gay, lesbian, bisexual, pansexual pins